back to look at the game that virtually re-established the entire console industry. Sure, it had existed since the early 70s, but none of the console games from that era really achieved the level of success and notoriety that Super Mario Bros. Did upon its release for the Famicom and NES in 1985.
Never before had a game been practically synonymous with its console, since most popular console games at the time were just ports of popular arcade games. But Super Mario Bros. Established the standard that if you had the new Nintendo, you had the new Mario. Now, you could make the argument that this is due in large part to the fact that the game was bundled with every NES, and that may have potentially been a factor, but don't let that fool you.
This game is fun. Really fun. That said, let's not waste any more time and get right into details. Like with Zelda, I first played this game on the 3DS Virtual Console, so that's the system we'll be looking at this game on. So without further ado, it's time to give Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System a fresh focus.
Despite the solid gameplay, the story is an entirely different matter. Unlike The Legend of Zelda, which tried to make a little bit of sense within the realm of fantasy, Super Mario Bros. Makes no effort to provide a comprehensible story. Basically, a legion of turtle monsters called Koopa Troopas, commanded by King Koopa, invade the Mushroom Kingdom, a land with a population comprised entirely of beings known as toads that possess giant mushroom heads. Well, besides their princess, Princess Toadstool, who is entirely human.
Because that makes sense.
The Koopas used the black magic of King Koopa to kidnap Toadstool and turn all the residents of the Mushroom Kingdom into bricks and stones, and so the kingdom's plumber Mario has to set out to defeat the Koopa tribe and save the kingdom. This does of course mean that every brick Mario destroys for a power-up or a coin was once a toad, but Mario's blatant genocide aside, this plot raises a lot of questions. Where is the Mushroom King? How come only Toadstool can break the curse on the toads? Why is Mario also human? Who are his parents? Were they toads and is Mario just a mutant mushroom? Why is he a plumber? Does the kingdom just need a lot of plumbing or does it also have other blue-collar jobs? Toad mechanic? Toad electrician? Toad stonemason? Gee, that one would be pretty damn ironic. Nonetheless, the story has very little bearing on the gameplay, so let's just jump right into that, shall we?
The entire game is made up of 32 platforming levels, that is to say 8 worlds with 4 stages in each, that will throw various obstacles at Mario such as bottomless pits, water, fire, and members of the Koopa tribe. That includes enemies such as Koopa Troopas themselves, piranha plants, Lakitus, Buzzy Beetles, and Goombas.
If you're wondering why they look strikingly similar to mushrooms, it's because, according to the manual, Goombas are mushrooms that actually betrayed the kingdom and went over to the Koopa tribe. Now, there are a lot of these in the Super Mario series. Goombas are one of the most recognizable enemies in gaming after all, so it really makes you wonder why so many mushrooms have defected from the Mushroom Kingdom. Maybe Peach is a tyrant and Bowser was just staging a liberation mission, saving the Toads that hadn't been swayed by her propaganda and turning the rest into bricks, which would mean that Mario's efforts to rescue Peach would actually make him the villain?
Either way, the game as a whole is very straightforward. Don't get hit by enemies, don't fall in pits, and make it to the flagpole at the end of the level. The game's extraordinary simplicity is made even easier to comprehend by Mario himself. Mario can do 2 things: run and jump.
The game doesn't allow Mario to move back further than a few steps, so you'll pretty much only ever be moving forward. Mario initially starts out small, but he can obtain various power-ups such as the mushroom that makes him Super Mario and allows him to take 1 extra hit, the Fire Flower that makes him Fire Mario and allows him to shoot fireballs with the run button, and the Star Power that makes Mario temporarily invincible.
That's it. Everything else is running and jumping.
What really makes this game fun though is how satisfying it can be to do those 2 things. Since running and jumping is what you're doing for the entire game, Nintendo made sure that the controls for doing them are really tight. The movements and controls are very fluid, and the game's just all around extremely fun to play because everything runs so smoothly. You can go as slow as you need to, but you can also speedrun stages if you're feeling confident enough about your skills. The game essentially lets you choose how fast you play it, which is one of its best aspects. There are even special warp zones that can send you a few worlds ahead, and if you've really mastered the mechanics, then you can even beat the game in as little as 5 minutes.
That in mind, the game's not particularly long, as casually running through all 32 stages may only take you 45 minutes to an hour. But for what the game is trying to accomplish with its gameplay, it doesn't need to be very long.
And there's also a two-player mode, since this is Super Mario Bros. After all, where a friend can play as Mario's brother Luigi. The mode is a versus mode, unlike many newer Mario titles where a two-player mode tends to be more cooperative, so you can put your platforming skills to the test and see if you can beat your friend to Bowser's castle.
Although, regardless of your skill level, this game can be pretty difficult to finish all the way through. You start with 3 lives, and if you lose all 3, regardless of whether you're on World 1-1 or World 8-4, you will always start the entire game over. Especially as you progress through the game, platforming will become really tight and enemies will be everywhere, so one small mistake can result in a swift death.
You can get more lives by collecting 1-up mushrooms, but these are very scarce and hard to find. The entire game only has 10, and they're all hidden in blocks that blend in with the rest of the screen. You can also get 1-ups by collecting 100 coins, which does happen relatively infrequently, but these two methods of getting 1-ups together should provide you with enough lives to make it through the game. It also goes without saying that the music in this game is fantastic. Koji Kondo single-handedly made some of the most iconic songs in all of gaming, such as the Underwater theme, the Underground theme, the Castle theme, and most especially the Overworld theme. This song is just so catchy, too catchy even, and it's the perfect accompanying piece for all the platforming in the game.
I feel like I may only be talking about the great aspects of this game, and that's really because its problems are pretty hard to find. It makes sense, I mean, a game with a ton of flaws would never have exploded the way this game did, but I altogether just don't really have much to complain about with this game.
The game does show its age a bit. A few of the levels repeat later in the game with slightly more enemies, so you're not actually getting 32 completely different stages, but otherwise there really isn't much bad that can be said about this game. As you make your way through each world, you will eventually hit the world's castle, which plays just like every other level, except for ending with a fight with Bowser, or a minion of Bowser. These do get progressively harder, but ultimately every time you just need to hit the axe at the end of the level to proceed to the next world. You'll rescue a mushroom retainer each time, which makes no sense since every other mushroom was turned into a brick, but hey, I guess the game just felt like trolling you. I don't know how the Mushroom Kingdom economy could afford to build 8 completely different castles, but you nonetheless have to rescue 7 mushroom retainers before you can even think about tackling the final castle to save Peach herself. You'll eventually fight the actual Bowser, who fights just like his minions, and when you defeat him, you will finally save the princess. Super Mario Bros. Is a game that to this day holds up as an incredibly smooth and fun all-around experience. This is a game that every single gamer should play to understand why this game was so revolutionary upon its debut. There's a reason this was the best-selling game of all time for over 2 decades, and while it was bundled with the NES, it was really this game causing the system to sell, and not the other way around. For the very first Super Mario game, it's definitely not the best, but it is a brief yet extremely fun platforming romp that will forever be remembered in the annals of gaming history as one of the most influential games ever created.
It was fun getting to finally play this legend, though I will say that pretty much everything this game did was done better by later entries in the series. Now don't let that fool you into thinking that this game isn't fantastic. It is. That's more so just a testament to the consistent quality of the Super Mario franchise. But Those are just my thoughts, so I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you liked the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon for all future updates from me. And if you really enjoyed the video, please be sure to comment down below and suggest any games that you might want me to look at in the future. Also, if you haven't already, please check out my last video, a retrospective on the first Legend of Zelda for the NES. For now, though, I'll be signing off until next time, when you can join me for my retrospective on the infamously difficult NES classic, Castlevania. Until then, see you next time, gamers.